television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon. It is 1 o'clock on Sunday, the 29th of June. Thank you so much for your company this afternoon. As I always say, I will genuinely appreciate it. This is the weekend on GB News. Now, a cracking show for you. Your stories of the first hour are...
Free, free! Free, free! Alright, but have you heard this one, though? Death, death to the IDF! Death, death to the IDF!
Yeah, apologies for that if you're trying to eat your lunch at the moment, but we have to talk about it. Glastonbury Festival has said it is appalled by the statements made by Bobby Villan. This comes as the government demands urgent answers from the BBC after its live coverage aired anti-Israel chanting, leaving many asking if the BBC's vetting is inadequate. But could the chaos continue in today's final performances? And it's not another good day for the Prime Minister. He has admitted he was unprepared for the scale of the backbench rebellion brewing over benefit cuts as MPs prepare to vote on the contentious bill.
Yes, a difficult week for the Prime Minister. They've had to do 3 U-turns recently. Things are not in a good place nearly a year after the election.
And yes, Nigel Farage, this is a good story for you. Nigel Farage reveals he hopes young men will turn to him to give them a voice, saying, because if I don't, you wait until what comes after me. Do you think Nigel Farage is a good role model for young men? And the nanny state, yep, supermarkets will be ordered to cut up to 100 calories from your shopping basket under a new nanny state drive to tackle obesity. And yeah, a few What's Culture. To celebrate this glorious weather we are having, join me later to find out which beach in the UK has been revealed as Britain's worst and which has been revealed as Britain's worst. I'm Dawn Neeson and this is Weekend. Yeah, so thank you for joining me this sunny Sunday. I hope the weather is lovely where you are and you are having a gorgeous weekend. Now, I appreciate your time because I know there's so much you need to do on a Sunday, but it is hot out there, and if you listen to all those scary weather alerts, you need to sit indoors with the curtains closed, and what better way to do that than sit in front of your telly? Because this show is indeed all about you, and I want to know what you're thinking about all the stories we're discussing today, what you're making of the weather, because we talk about the weather a lot, and indeed what you make of Glastonbury yesterday. Really easy to get in touch. Simply visit gbnews.com/yoursay and joining our conversation. But yeah, it's Team Girl again today because here are those latest news headlines, and again, it's Bethany Elsey.
Dawn, thank you. Good afternoon. Here's your top stories from the GB newsroom. Glastonbury Festival says it's appalled by the actions of Bob Vylan on stage as footage from their set is being assessed by the police. It's after the rap-punk duo chanted death to the Israeli military and encouraged the crowd to join in. Organisers say they crossed a line and that there's no place for anti-Semitism, hate speech or incitement to violence at the festival. The BBC says a warning was issued on screen during the performance, but senior government ministers are saying the broadcaster has serious questions to answer for not stopping the live stream. Israel's Deputy Foreign Minister Sharon Haskell spoke to GB News.
This is an absolute disgrace. I just don't understand how chants for death, for the destruction of Israel, racist comments like that have been just normalized in the UK. What do you think the BBC would have done had a performer been shouting anti-Muslim or far-right hate speeches? They would have pulled the plug immediately. So how come this only happened when it comes to Israel or to Jews?
2 more people have been arrested on suspicion of terror offences after planes at an RAF base were vandalised in a move claimed by the Palestine Action Group. Counter-terrorism police said 2 men, both from London, were taken into custody yesterday. They're accused of the commission, preparation or instigation of acts of terrorism after the attack at Bryce Norton just over a week ago. On Friday, a woman and 2 men, also from London, were arrested, accused of the same offence. The Home Secretary is set to prescribe Palestine Action as a terrorist organisation. The Prime Minister has defended his decision to U-turn on his welfare bill, saying he was distracted by world affairs. Sir Keir Starmer claims he was heavily focused with the G7 and NATO summits and the escalating tensions in the Middle East for much of the past 2 weeks. He only gave his full attention to the welfare bill on Thursday, the day before he announced the reforms. Concessions were made after a rebellion of more than 120 Labour backbenchers. Health Secretary Wes Streeting told GB News the changes should give people peace of mind.
OK, this week could have been smoother, not going to make any bones about that, but are we in a better place, having debated with each other, listened to each other and found a way through? Yes, we are in a better position, and there'll be lots of disabled people watching this morning, I suspect, on PIP, who've now got the peace of mind of knowing their situation is not going to change, they'll be protected.
Supermarkets will have to help shoppers make healthier food choices under new government plans to tackle obesity. The Healthy Food Standard, which will require retailers to promote fruit and vegetables instead of junk food, is part of a 10-year NHS health plan. Supermarkets will be forced to report sales data and they could face fines for failing to meet targets. Measures also include tweaking recipes, changing shop layouts and offering discounts off healthy foods. A 7-year-old girl has died and another is in critical condition after a tree collapsed at a park in Essex. Emergency services were called to Chalkwell Park in Southend yesterday to reports of a number of casualties. 3 other children were taken to hospital with minor injuries. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Bethany, and thank you for your company this afternoon. We have got an absolutely packed show for you, talking some really important subjects here, so I'm very, very keen to get your comments on what we're talking about. gbnews.com/your say. Remember, it's the way to get involved. Now, obviously, we are kicking off with Glastonbury, the festival. They say they're appalled by the actions of punk band Bob Vylan, adding a chance of death to the IDF crossed a line.
Free, free! Free, free! Alright, but have you heard this one, though? Death, death to the IDF! Death, death to the IDF! Death, death to the IDF! Death, death to the IDF!
OK, a police probe has since been launched into the distressing comments made by the duo, and the government has strongly condemned the actions, demanding urgent answers from the BBC. Earlier, Health Secretary Wes Streeting addressed the incident with Camilla Tominey. Here's what he had to say.
I do think the BBC have got questions to answer, as of the organisers of Glastonbury, about how this particular act came to be given such a prominent platform. And of course the comments that he made were completely disgraceful, but I also suspect were attention seeking and publicity seeking. And the fact that even now, and this is the perverse irony of what we saw at Glastonbury, the people, the Israelis who were taken from a music festival, killed, raped and still being held captive, those are the serious issues we should be talking about, which shouldn't be minimalised in the way that I think this act did.
Hamas continues to use its own people as human shields. I mean, why have we got people at Glastonbury not saying death to Hamas?
Well, absolutely. Hamas is a death cult. We should be in no doubt about that. And I suspect that half of those drunken revellers, in fact, most of those drunken revellers, wouldn't want to live a single day in life under Hamas. As I say, they are a death cult.
Strong words from Wes Streeting, and indeed, but can you imagine if they had been chanting death to Hamas, the reaction from the crowd? And it's not so much the band that worries me, it's the reaction of that crowd there. So let's see what the editor of the former editor of the Jewish Chronicle, Jake Wallace-Simons, make of it. Jake, thank you very much for joining us today. I think everyone's agreed that they were appalling scenes. What do you make of what you saw?
Well, my first thought is that if such people would have made those kind of incitement to violence from the point of view of the far right, there would have been, crowd management from the police, completely cracking down upon this sort of behaviour. But when it comes from the far left, the woke left, as it were, then it seems like the police give them a chance and are very, very encouraging to them until they do cross the line. And it feels like the way in which they've behaved in an indulgent way towards the far left really has caused a climate of that they sort of allow people to press themselves against the sort of evidence that you would normally stand against.
Jake, I mean, it does strike me, witnessing that and the comments this morning online, that the one form of racism that it's still acceptable, and I'm saying that in inverted commas, is anti-Semitism. Is that what you think?
That's right. I mean, it's difficult to imagine in this day and age somebody at Glastonbury calling for death against any minority other than Jews. Imagine if they were calling for death to Muslims or other minorities, black people and so forth. That would have been totally rejected by the police. And yet when it comes to Israelis and Jews, it seems to be acceptable. It should really, it sort of reflects against the way in which Jews are treated with a double standard by the woke left and their camp in Glastonbury.
Have you been in contact with any Jewish people that happened to be at the festival and were there and maybe were in that crowd?
I haven't been in contact with anybody personally, but certainly Jewish people, did go to Glastonbury and were in the audience. And one can only imagine how they would have felt to see people, shouting in their thousands for the deaths of Jews in a kind of middle-class, indulgent rock concert. It really is a very worrying sign of the times that Jews have to put up with this sort of stuff. And unfortunately, the two-tier policing, which has encouraged the enemies of Jews to behave in this sort of way and hasn't protected Jews for many, many months indeed, has finally, encouraged people to begin to cross the line, as Keir Starmer has put it, and as the authorities in Glastonbury have put it. And it really worries. It's really worrying to think, where is this all going to end?
Well, the BBC, have banned people in the past. The BBC banned the Sex Pistols, for example. They also banned Frankie Goes to Hollywood. I mean, should groups like this, and we're including kneecap in this, even been allowed to play there in the first place? And should the BBC have reacted quicker? They let this entire thing go out. You could sit and watch it, horrified, from your own living room.
Well, I think for most people in Britain, they have no hesitation about condemning this sort of behaviour. The people who are calling for the death of the IDF, I mean, the Israeli forces, don't forget, were the people who defeated the Iranian nuclear threat, which has made us all safer in Britain as well as around the world. And I think that most people, the sight of bands and other people on the far left calling for the death of the IDF and standing in this extremist position, most people would have no hesitation about condemning that. And yet, on the left, the BBC and other supporters have had kid gloves with respect to this, and have taken them with a pinch of salt, without recognising that this is a very dangerous movement indeed. We had in May the murder of 2 Israeli diplomats in Washington, D.C., allegedly by pro-Palestine activists. We've seen pro-Palestine activists cross the line again by breaking into RAF air bases and attacking RAF aircraft, which play a vital role in this nation's security. And still, the police, politicians and so forth don't take this seriously. We need to start treating these people seriously. The BBC should not be broadcasting these sorts of messages of hatred and incitement to violence to millions of homes around Britain. And the fact that they did says a lot about the indulgence which they and other people from that part of politics has treated these people.
Jake, do you think there should be arrests made in this incident?
Well, it seems beyond, it seems pretty obvious that the police should be arresting these sorts of people for inciting violence. But the real problem is that there are so many people on the left, whether young or old, at Glastonbury, who don't see anything wrong with it. And so the police really are, sort of trying to hold back the tide, which is changing our culture and dominating people's attitude and beginning to see Israel and Jews as being the same as Nazis, when actually they're benefiting. They're struggling to protect their own people from Hamas.
The world has gone mad indeed. Thank you very much. That's Jake Wallace-Simons from the former editor of the Jewish Chronicle. Thank you very much for joining us today. Now, a BBC spokesman has said some of the comments made during Bob Dylan's performance were deeply offensive during this live stream on iPlayer, which reflected what was happening on stage. A warning was issued on screen about the very strong and discriminatory language. We have no plans to make the performance available on demand. Glastonbury Festival have said they are appalled by the statements made by Bobby Villan of punk duo Bob Villan during their set on Saturday. A post on Instagram said, "As a festival, we stand against all forms of war and terrorism. We will always believe in and actively campaign for hope, unity, peace and love." With almost 4,000 performances at Glastonbury in 2025, there will inevitably be artists and speakers appearing on our stages whose views we do not share, and a performer's presence here should never be seen as a tacit endorsement of their opinions or beliefs. OK, well, make of that what you will, and let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. And don't forget, you can stay with us all day, even if you are wandering out and about. We're on your radio, we're on your phones, we're on your laptops, we're obviously on your tellies, and we're on your smart speakers as well. Very clever these days. You can just play us very simply by saying to your smart speaker, just play GB News on TuneIn. How clever is that, eh? Now, we will move on. The Prime Minister is admitting he dropped the ball on the rebellion mounted by backbench MPs over welfare cuts. Sir Keir Starmer says he was distracted by last week's events in the Middle East, and that's why he failed to stop the 120 MP-strong rebellion to his benefits bill, which will be voted on this Tuesday. Joining me now is GB News political correspondent, the wonderful Catherine Forster. Catherine, thank you very much for being in the studio with me. It's very exciting. Distracted. A PM admitting he was distracted. He literally has one job as PM, to take notice of what's going on in the country. How was he distracted? What's going on?
Well, he has said, look, he was at the G7. There was a situation in the Middle East which was very tense. Then he was at NATO in The Hague. Basically, his head was full of international affairs. And I was with him in The Hague at the NATO summit. It is true that the world is more dangerous. That is taking a huge amount of his time. But at the end of the day, he is the Prime Minister. The buck ultimately does stop with him. And they had known for months, frankly, that there was a looming rebellion on the welfare cut. So it did feel like he was sort of a little bit in a parallel universe, because we were at NATO where we were asking him every day What are you going to do? Are you going to back down? And at one point, he referred to the 126 rebels as noises off, which was clearly not a phrase which was going to help matters. And then, of course, he
came
back.
It's like Island of Strangers. He has these phrases that really just don't go there.
Yeah, and the Island of Strangers, he's given a big interview this weekend because, of course, it'll be nearly a year since the election and that landslide. Feels like much longer than that. And the Island of Strangers comment that he made a few weeks ago, he was talking very tough on immigration, sounded quite a lot like Nigel Farage, but now turns out that he deeply regrets that, and he basically said he hadn't read the speech terribly thoroughly because his family home that's currently rented to his sister had been firebombed the night before, and but for the fact that she was awake and raised the alarm, it could have been much worse. So he says he and his family were quite traumatised by that. His head wasn't in the right place. He'd skimmed the speech, but he hadn't made the connection with what Enoch Powell had said in that Rivers of Blood speech, nor had any of his speech writers. But that he
everybody else did straight away.
Yeah, so, I mean, the buck does stop with him, but at the same time, there's a lot of people around him, and I think what's happened now is they've got the worst of all worlds in that they upset a lot of people with the cuts to winter fuel, with the cuts that were coming for disabled people's PIPs and so on. Also with saying there was no need for a national inquiry on the rape gangs. Now they've U-turned on all of those things. Those people are already upset, may or may not forgive them. Now he looks weak, and Rachel Reeves, they've lost authority. Rachel Reeves, where's she going to find the money from? Taxes might have to go up. So they've managed to upset huge numbers of people. Perhaps there was a better way of going about some of these things.
And meanwhile, in the papers today, lots of talk of Angela Rayner, who is, according to some sources within the party, waiting in the wings.
Well, she would deny that, of course, as would Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, but they are clearly contenders. But I just think it's astonishing that people are having this conversation. So Keir Starmer took Labour to a 160-seat majority. Now, you could say it was largely, basically, because people were very, very cross with the Conservatives, not that it was an active choice for Labour, but they promised change. And when I was in NATO the other day, I did say to him, you know, you've made huge pledges on defence spending going through 10 years. How confident are you that you'll be in a position to deliver those or even to lead Labour into the next general election? Now, he said he was very confident. Of course he would. But the very fact that I felt a need to ask that question, I think is a bit of a worry for them.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Catherine. That's Catherine Forster there, our wonderful political correspondent. Now, do you want some good news? We must have some good news on a Sunday, mustn't we? It's time for the Great British Giveaway and your chance to win £54,321 in cash. It is our biggest cash giveaway to date. And all of that tax-free, she can't get her hands on it, could be yours. Here's Hayley Sparks with all the details for you.
This is your chance to enjoy luxury this summer. It's our biggest cash prize to date, an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. What would you do with that? With all of that cash, you could just chill out, treat yourself and indulge in the finer things in life, somewhere like here, Downhall Hotel and Spa. You really could win the cash giveaway of the summer. Go on, treat yourself.
For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Yeah, I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. Those who are coming up on today's show. It is absolutely jam-packed. You don't want to move a muscle. Including supermarkets being ordered to cut up to 100 calories from your shopping basket under a new nanny state drive to tackle obesity. But after the break, we will have Nigel Farage even revealing he hopes young men will turn to him to give them a voice, saying, because if I don't, you wait till what comes after me. Indeed. Do you think Nigel Farage is a good role model for young men, though? All of that and much more to come. This is GB News at Britain's News Channel. Don't go too far. We'll see you soon.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, in the past few minutes, Meghan Markle has paid a sweet tribute to Princess Lilibet as she turns 4 today. It comes just a day after the Duchess of Sussex said she'd love to go into business with her daughter in the future.
Well, that's all it is, another money-making effort there. That's to make up for nobody buying her jam. I mean, do you really care if you see a picture of her kid or not? You do, that's it.
I'd like to see her face, to be honest.
I don't. Now, back to Diana, of course, who was the real star and style icon and whatever. And one day I can remember I complimented her on her outfit that she was wearing, and it was the same colour as the outfit you were wearing yesterday.
Bottle green?
No. RUC green, Royal Ulster Constabulary green, as she pointed out to me. She said, yes, RUC green, what do you think? And then she went into a whole, literally, sob story. She started crying about a bomb explosion that had been in Northern Ireland or whatever. She was very, very close, very connected with all of that. But, yeah, so...
And knowledgeable as well, by the sounds of things.
She was very knowledgeable, yeah. And then she went on to talk about William and Harry going to school and how that upset her, and they went to boarding school or whatever it is. So we talked about all those things. And I forgot why I was going to tell you that story, but there was some reason. But she was... it was the same colour as what you were wearing yesterday, anyway, the green.
Oh, and she was so lovely by the sounds of things.
She was film star status. I mean, you just saw her in a room and you would go...
Wow.
She's special, yeah, she's special.
And I think whoever that was speaking in that report there saying, one of the designers, I think it was the designer of the wedding dress, saying it was just clothes or just a dress, but then Diana wore it and then it was something special. Absolutely. And it became part of history. And that's exactly what happened.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
To all of you who voted for GB News to win at the Trick Awards for the 3rd year in a row.
So thank you so much for voting for us.
First, and hopefully there'll be a few more to come down the line.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's because of you that we're proud to be the People's Channel. It's because of you that we are Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to The Weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Thank you so much for your company this afternoon. Now, I always say that my favourite part of the show is talking to you lot out there. I was told off yesterday saying yous. So keep getting in touch, gbnews.com/your say. And lots of you are talking about our Glastonbury story and the way the BBC handled the whole problem. Leslie sums up pretty much what most of you are saying. Defund the BBC now. And Christine sends quite a poignant message in saying, Dawn, when I was a child, when the Second World War had just ended, many nationalities took up refuge, including Jewish people in our country. There was no animosity. We all got on. I think the indigenous population still think this way. We are a very tolerant country. The people that do think that way are the hordes that are coming in and saturating our country with hate. Now, very strong opinions, but I'm reading that up because I think Christine is summing up what an awful lot of you are feeling. So please do keep those messages coming in at gbnews.com/8, and I will read as many out as possible. Now, let's talk about Nigel Farage, shall we? His warning our democracy is under threat if we don't give Britain's youth a voice. Speaking to The Times today, the Reform UK leader warned if he couldn't give young men a voice, wait until what comes after him. I think he's referring to the likes of Andrew Tate and people like that who are maybe selling a branch of toxic masculinity. In any case, let's find out. Joining me now is Reform UK, a county councillor in Kent, Councillor Maxwell Harrison. Maxwell,
good afternoon.
Thank you. Hello, good afternoon. It is good afternoon already. Thank you very much for joining me today. I've got no idea what month it is, let alone what time it is.
No, it's fine.
Now, this is a very wide-ranging interview in The Times today with Nigel, but it's the bit at the very end that has drawn my attention. He is actually selling himself as a new role model for younger men, younger voters. What do you make about what he has to say?
Well, I think it's absolutely spot on. I mean, if you look in latest data, now 35% of 17-year-olds are now getting behind reform. That's because of Nigel Farage. I mean, let's take this back. This is a man who survived a plane crash, led a fringe party, which led us to actually having a referendum on a massive issue, which we would never have had if it wasn't for him. He now leads a political party after having come back only 12 months ago, who would have thought, and now we're on 30% on the polls. So absolutely, he is a role model. You don't have to agree with what he says or his particular brand of politics, but what he is doing is encouraging people to get active in politics, talk about the state of our nation, get involved in current affairs, and actually give people that voice. And that's why I think he is a brilliant role model for men and women alike.
Maxwell, there are some would say that we have Tommy Robinson who is giving a voice to those young men.
Well, look, Tommy Robinson has his own brand of politics. It's not a politics which I prescribe to, which Reform UK sort of purports or supports either. But that's a fringe politics. If we talk about massive issues right now for young people, when it's harder to get a job, harder to start a family, harder to get a house, that is what is important to young people. These are the crucial things because it is our future which is on the line. That is what Reform UK offers alone at this moment in time. That's why our membership is rising. That's why when you see up and down the country, the amount of actually young councillors, who are involved in Reform UK, it's astronomical. So that's why, Nigel Farage is that sole voice for a better, cleaner brand of politics which actually puts our domestic issues at the very forefront of the conversation.
And obviously, lots of young men we talk to on this channel do feel like they have lost their way, and we know that young working class boys in particular feel like they are the bottom of the pile in general. And I just noticed in this interview as well, Nigel has praised our misogynist influencer Andrew Tate and expressed concern that diversity and inclusion policies discriminate against young men, in particular, again, the young working class men. Now, kind of aligning yourself. He says he's not in Andrew Tate's camp, but he's aligning himself with some of those views. Do you think that's a dangerous thing to do?
No, I don't think he's putting himself in Andrew Tate's camp whatsoever. What I think he's doing is highlighting that actually right now in the United Kingdom, where working class lads are at the back of the queue. Only 12% of working class lads are now going to higher education. Only 17% of working class lads are getting a grade 5 or above in English or math. They are being put at the back of the queue in their own country. People like Andrew Tate, they are a resultant of people shoving down a type of a brand of politics and political ideology wherein people should be ashamed of who they are, where they're from, their particular country, and actually telling young boys that they haven't got a voice, that they should be apologetic. That's why people like Tate are on the rise. And if we don't actually sort of refocus our aims and our objectives on how to connect and unite young people, particularly men, to actually getting aspirations and objectives and doing well in life, then we're going to see these people who are purporting online massive successes, Lamborghinis, lots of money, is going to get worse and worse.
Maxwell, while I've got you on, we saw two young men from London on the stage at Glastonbury yesterday. What did you make of what Bob Billum had to say?
Dawn, is absolutely disgusting. I mean, it's morally repugnant. The police should be acting with quite swiftness right now. Lucy Connolly, let's be quite frank, she's gone to prison for far less than what these boys said on the stage yesterday. This idea of saying that if you want your country back, or, and using expletive afterwards, when of course the Irish band came on and saying free, Mo Farah. Again, this is we've actually saw yesterday almost cult-like, people sponsoring terrorism and anti-Semitism, and it's vile and it's repugnant and it's very, very scary that this is not only being openly encouraged, but it's being normalised. But actually, anti-Semitism is being normalised in this country. The BBC, I completely agree with the comments made by GBNews viewers. BBC should be defunded. Avon and Somerset Police, if they don't, charge this man, I'll tell you what, we're going to see something very ugly indeed.
Okay, and what do you think should happen to Bob Villan?
I think he should be charged and go to prison. What we've seen people go to prison for far worse, for mean tweets and comments online. That was an incitement of violence. That is genuine hatred. I know that the kind and tolerant left say that our Reform and other parties on the right of politics, they breed nastiness and whatnot. What we saw yesterday, that was genuine hatred, and it is not accepted. It shouldn't be allowed, and there's no space for it in the United Kingdom.
Great, thank you very much for that. That is Councillor Maxwell Harrison, Reform UK County Councillor in Kent. Thank you very much. Now, very, very strong opinions there, but this is one of those debates that is strong opinions on both sides. If you go onto social media, some of the language being used on there, on both sides, is frankly quite horrific. Let me know what you think, though, at gbnews.com/your say. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News, and there's plenty more coming up on today's show. But yes, it is indeed once again time for the latest news headlines with Bethany.
Dawn, thank you. Good afternoon. Your top stories from the GB newsroom. Glastonbury Festival says it's appalled by the actions of Bob Villan on stage after the rap punk duo chanted "Death to the IDF" and encouraged the crowd to join in. The government says the BBC has serious questions to answer for not stopping the broadcast. 2 more people have been arrested on suspicion of terror offences after planes at an RAF base were vandalised in a move claimed by soon-to-be-banned campaign group Palestine Action. The Prime Minister has defended his decision to U-turn on his welfare bill, saying he was heavily focused on world affairs. Sir Keir Starmer made a number of concessions to prevent a rebellion by Labour backbenchers. Discounts on healthy foods, changing recipes and fines for supermarkets who fail to meet healthier sales targets. These are just some of the new measures the government will introduce to tackle obesity as part of their 10-year NHS plan. And England have retained their title, winning the Under-21s European Championship after beating Germany 3-2 in Slovakia. Those are the headlines for now. More at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Bethany. Now, lots of you getting in touch. Leslie, certainly about the Glastonbury Bob Villan story. Leslie says, arrest Bob Villan now. Prove you believe in justice, Starmer, I dare you. And Roger, along similar lines, says, Villan needed the 31 months inside, not Connolly. Lots and lots of strong words coming in there. Please do keep them coming in, because this show is all about you and your thoughts. gbnews.com/your say is the way to get in touch, and I will read as many out as I possibly can. Now, there's loads more coming up on today's show. To celebrate this glorious weather we're having, well, I'm loving it, join me later to find out what has been revealed as Britain's best beach and also Britain's worst. Bit of a shock, really. But after the break, supermarkets will be ordered to cut up to 100 calories from your shopping basket under a new nanny state drive to tackle obesity. What do you make of that one? All of that and much more. I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is a GB News, Britain's news channel. Don't go too far. Get a quick snack if you like, and we'll see you soon.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. High pressure dominating, meaning it's largely dry across the UK through Sunday. But there is a fair amount of cloud this morning, trapped underneath the area of high pressure, but the strong June sunshine should get to work, and we'll see plenty of that developing as we go through into the afternoon. It may be stubborn, though, across parts of the Midlands into Wales, southwest England like we saw on Saturday, Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland also seeing cloudier skies. Cloud could be thick enough for some drizzle at times over the hills. But elsewhere, generally sunny and temperatures really rising in that sunshine. Highs around 31 Celsius towards the southeast, elsewhere towards the low, perhaps locally mid-20s. So a warm day to come and a very warm evening, particularly across southern and southeast England. Temperatures still towards the high 20s, 30 Celsius there in London at 5 p.m. Cloudier skies further north and west this evening, so here temperatures more like the low 20s. But sunshine still holding on across eastern Scotland, reaching around 21 Celsius there at 6 p.m. Cloudier skies in the west, allowing for some drizzle and fairly breezy conditions around the coasts as well. Overnight, we'll see some patchy rain across parts of Orkney and Shetland. Elsewhere should be largely dry with some clear spells, where the cloud is thick enough again over some western hills. Could see a little bit of drizzle, but the humidity is rising through the night, so it will be fairly uncomfortable for sleeping. Temperatures dropping no lower than 15 to 18 Celsius. Some places may even stay above 20 degrees. So I'm hopeful there'll be more sunshine across England and Wales to start on Monday morning. However, across Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, the cloud thickens with outbreaks of heavy rain moving in here through the day. Could be some localised flooding, so it is worth staying up to the details here. But in the sunshine, temperatures really rocketing up to 34 Celsius towards the southeast come the afternoon.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News. He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
Hello, welcome back to The Weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Thank you so much for your company this afternoon. Shall we talk about food? It is a Sunday lunchtime, isn't it? OK, supermarket shelves could soon look very different. New rules mean shops must help cut 100 calories from every shopping basket in a push to tackle obesity. But critics are calling it a nanny state move, warning of red tape, rising costs and a ban on our favourite snacks. Joining me now to discuss this is health writer and commentator Roy Lilly. Roy.
Hello,
Roy,
Dawn.
where are you? You're there, Roy. Thank you so much for joining me. Hello, Roy. How's this going to work is my first big question.
I don't know. What's your next question? It's bonkers, isn't it? It's totally complicated. Can you imagine Tesco's trying to send Wes Streeting a weekly list of what you've bought? Seriously, it's bonkers. We've got to do something, because, now we've become the fat bums of Europe, and our kids are the fattest in Europe. And the obesity thing, although we laugh about it, it's really very serious, and it costs the NHS a fortune. And you don't really want to be obese if you can avoid it. But what you do about it, I mean, certainly getting Sainsbury's to make a list of everything that everybody buys and send them into West Streeting is madness. There is a way. I think they kind of sort of got the idea. If you just cast your mind back to when George Osborne was the Chancellor of the Exchequer, he introduced a thing called a sugar levy. And he said to the fizzy drink people, if you want to carry on loading up your drinks with sugar, that's fine. Good luck, I'm going to tax it. If you want to reformulate it without that in it, then I won't tax it. And guess what? All the fizzy drink companies reformulated. And so we now drink a lot less sugar. And the sugar levy actually collected almost nothing because all the supermarkets said, well, wait a minute, we can make the same thing without as much sugar. So that's the kind of thing you've got to do if you're going to do that. But really trying to, 100 calories, what's that? I mean, it's a hobnob, isn't it? And a latte, probably.
Yeah, I think it's a fairly small banana, to be honest with you.
So small bananas. Wish I'd thought of that, yeah.
Which are, in theory, healthy. Everything in moderation is healthy for you. I mean, critics, I mean, this is part of the backbone of this 10-year plan to improve the nation's health, which is being unveiled, as you said, by West Streeting this week. And, you know, obesity does cost us £11 billion in the country at the moment, at the NHS. And it will sort of like cut down on sort of obesity, but also will help things like asthma and blood pressure and things like that. So in long term, it's going to save the NHS money.
Yeah. I agree, Dawn, you're right. I mean, we have a bit of a laugh about it, but obesity is a very serious thing. It's blood pressure, it's cholesterol, it's heart, it's weight on your joints. I mean, it's everything you don't want. So then the trick is to say, well, how do we stop people, stuffing themselves stupid with things that make them fat? And that gets into this very difficult area, so-called nanny state. Ian MacLeod came up with the expression nanny state in 1960 when he was the editor of The Spectator. So he's got a lot of history. This trope has troped a long time. But you do have to do something about it. And if you look at public health, the things that make public health work are the law. So if you think about it, seatbelts in cars, crash helmets on motorbikes, health and safety legislation, smoking in the workplace, all of those things had a really big impact, particularly Tony Blair's smoking in the workplace, had a big impact on public health. So what do you do with people's shopping baskets? And I think it's bonkers to what they're trying to do. But what would be a good idea, I think, is to follow George Osborne's idea and say to the food manufacturers, you can sell what you like and good luck. But if it's, I'm going to put a tax on it. So, and I tell you, they will reformulate it overnight because they can.
This is the thing.
And the sensible thing.
The other issue here I find personally, Roy, with obesity in this country is on the way to the supermarket to buy that banana, which is 100 calories, I have to walk past rows and rows of fast food shops with hordes of kids in them. Surely we need to tackle that before we actually get the supermarkets counting our bananas.
Yeah, I mean, that's this whole thing is called an obesogenic society. This is sort of posh word for it. And so what it means is that everything is stacked up so that everybody does the wrong thing. And you're absolutely right. And that's planning legislation, and planning legislation, you could say, OK, we're not going to have a fast food shop within, 300 yards, 2 miles of a school, but what do you do? So there are things you can do. I mean, what can you say? We're going to, every chip shop has got to have a door that's 18 inches wide so fat people can't go in and buy chips.
I should quite like that idea.
Well, you can have scales at a bus stop, can't you? You get on the scales, the bloke says you're too fat, you've got to walk. I mean, we laugh about it, but I mean, there are some regulatory things that we do need to take seriously. We do need to take this seriously, and people want to lose weight. Generally speaking, people who are overweight have a rotten time, particularly in this weather. Yeah. And so we've got to help them do it. So you can help them do that by changing the things they can buy. You can help them do that by just by helping them to think about, more sensibly about what they eat. And that starts in the supermarket, and it starts in the chip shop, and it starts, all of those things.
Right, I'll thank you very much. We have run out of time. I'll let you get back to your Sunday lunch, which I'm sure is very healthy indeed. That is Roy Lilly, a health writer and commentator there on the government checking your shopping basket to see how many bananas you've got. Any case, if you are in search of some holiday sun, here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's going to continue to be very hot across southern parts of the Mediterranean over the next couple of days, but not everywhere is going to see that hot weather. Parts of Madeira, the Canary Islands, seeing a little bit of clouds and blustery winds over the next couple of days. But it's southern parts of Spain, southern parts of France, parts of Italy, Greece that will continue to see those temperatures rising into the mid, perhaps high 30s, maybe even locally the low 40s too. There will still be plenty of sunshine on offer for many though, and those temperatures will be on the rise as we go over the next couple of days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel. He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
Hello, welcome back to The Weekend with me, Dawn. Should we go to the seaside? Do you fancy a bit of seaside? I do. Yeah, because it is bad news, though, for Bognor. Sorry, Bognor. Once loved for its sunny seafront and old-school charm, the South Coast town has now been ranked, brace yourself, as the worst seaside spot in the UK. A new survey says it's gone from beach break to beach flop, with visitors calling it run down. Oh, dear lordy. So let's go and find out from the horse's mouth, shall we? Let's talk to the owners of a beach hut at Bognor itself, Fiona and Neil Mackenzie. There you go. Oh, lovely to see you. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Well, I'm having to say, it looks lovely, but where your beach hut is a bit rubbish.
Oh, I think that's been extremely harsh on the whole people of Bognor and the whole region, Dawn. I disagree completely.
But this is not... This is not me saying this, by the way. This is Which magazine, which has done a poll. You know, it's including all of the facilities in the area, the cleanliness of the beach, etc., etc. And Bognor has come bottom. I'll tell you, it's even beaten places like Jaywick and Clacton, where I used to go on holiday as a kid, and they are bad. What's so bad about it, or what's so good about it? Defend it.
Well, I think you can see what's good about it. I mean, look at this fantastic beach. Look at the sunshine. Look at the people having fun. It's just absolutely gorgeous. It's one of the sunniest places on the south coast. Admittedly, some of the town is a little bit run down, but I think the beach and the beach huts more than compensate for these other minor deficiencies of Bognor.
It does look lovely. How long have you had your beach hut there?
We've had it about 15 years.
Right, OK. And have you noticed a deterioration in the town and the beach area?
Slightly. I think, yeah. Unfortunately, the town, the frontage by the sea has gone down a little bit. There's unfortunately quite a few boarded up hotels, but I think they've got great potential for development. When you've got a resource like this beach, I think the future is looking bright.
OK, Fiona, how about you? You're being quite quiet at the moment on this. I mean, do you agree with your husband? I always find it's a good idea to agree with your husband, by the way. Not.
What I love about this place is that it's just good for the soul. The sun is out, people get out, they're friendly, they walk by, they stop for a chat, and you don't get that in your garden, Dawn. You can sit in your garden and just drink, but it's not the same as getting down here, getting the sea air. We've got our champagne, we've got our strawberries, and we just have a great, we really do live it up. We live it in style down here, don't we?
I'm going to try and just pan round so you can see, and you can see then the beach hut in the background.
Oh, that actually looks
Fiona,
nice.
Come on. There we are, and without falling over, I'll try and come back towards the beach hut here so you can see the type of life that one can have on the beachfront in Bognor here.
So you're obviously recommending it. Now, you can be honest with me. What is your favourite beach destination in the UK? Not Bognor.
If you want the sunshine, it would have to be Bognor. Born and brought up in the Outer Hebrides, I'd have to say that the beach at Luskin, Tyre and Harris is absolutely fantastic, but you only get one sunny day a year, so it's not much good, I'm afraid.
Fiona and Neil, thank you very much. Enjoy your champagne and your beach hut and your sunshine. Thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you. Oh, enjoy. That looks nice. I'm going down there right now. OK, well, don't go too far. There's loads more coming up. But if you are heading down to Bognor, you might want to know what the weather's going to be like for you. So let's have a look at that forecast.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers. Sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. High pressure holding on for many of us, though we will see weather fronts bringing some heavy rain across the northwest over the next 24 hours or so. We can see that nicely on the pressure pattern, high pressure largely keeping it settled, but this area of low pressure will bring heavy rain to parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. So it's not a sunny picture everywhere, though a fairly warm evening across much of the UK. Cloud thick enough for some drizzle at times across some western hills, but overnight it largely stays dry and clear. Some showers across the Western Isles reaching the Highlands later on, and temperatures as the humidity rises through the night not dropping much below 15 to 18 Celsius. Some parts of eastern England perhaps staying above 20 degrees. Monday morning should be a fairly sunny start across much of England and Wales. However, into Scotland those weather fronts are starting to move in, so showery outbreaks of rain across Orkney, Shetland, across into the Highlands as well. Some of this could be heavy at times, but some brighter skies across Aberdeenshire. Northern Ireland seeing the risk of some heavy rain starting to move in, but much of England and Wales will be sunny, just some cloud across the far west of Wales there, and temperatures already rising above 20 Celsius. This heavy rain will continue to push into Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland through the morning and into the afternoon. There could be the risk of some localised surface flooding, so do stay tuned to the forecast for this. Elsewhere, a sunny day to come could trigger 1 or 2 heavy showers as those temperatures really rise into the afternoon. 34 Celsius is possible. Strong UV levels, so it will feel hot towards the southeast. Elsewhere, temperatures generally the mid-20s. Through the evening time, the rain continues to push north and eastwards across Northern Ireland, across the rest of Scotland into northern England as well. Should remain dry elsewhere. And over the next few days, another hot day in the southeast on Tuesday. Temperatures then start to fall back nearer to average. See you soon.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
News to win at the Trick Awards for the 3rd year in a row. So thank you so much for voting for us.
First, and hopefully there'll be a few more to come down the line.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's because of you that we're proud to be the People's Channel. It's because of you that we are Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, it's 2 o'clock on Sunday the 29th of June. I don't know where the year's going either, but thank you so much for your company. I really appreciate it. This is The Weekend on GB News.
Free, free! Free, free! Alright, but have you heard this one though? Death, death to the IDF! Death, death to the IDF!
just saying to myself, though, you might have heard me, I'm just not sure if I want to watch that anymore, but I mean, I understand we've got to talk about it, it's an important story. In any case, Glastonbury Festival has said it is appalled by these statements made by Bobby Villan. This comes as the government demands urgent answers from the BBC after its live coverage of aired anti-Israel chanting, leaving many asking if the BBC's vetting is inadequate. But could the chaos continue in today's final performances? And the other big story for you, the Prime Minister admits he was unprepared for the scowl of backbench rebellion brewing over his benefit cuts as MPs prepare to vote on that very contentious bill.
Yes, the government thinks it's done enough to win that vote, but with 3 U-turns, the Prime Minister's authority seriously damaged, and where on earth is Rachel Reeves going to get the money from?
Spoiler alert, that's probably us. The Conservatives have struck an unprecedented deal with Reform UK in an attempt to force the government to reveal the true extent of migrant crime. Stay tuned to find out how that's going to go. And more than a quarter of police and crime commissioners have written an open letter to the policing minister calling for cannabis to be upgraded to a Class A substance. Remember, this is after the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, said he wants it decriminalised. But do you think cannabis is worse than heroin? I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is The Weekend. So thank you so much for your company this afternoon. I always appreciate it. I love talking to you. It really is genuinely the highlight of my show, and I do say it all the time. And I will read as many of your messages out as I possibly can, because lots of you are getting in touch about all the big stories today. Remember, if you do want to join in, gbnews.com/your say. And look, you can have a chat about anything you want, to be honest with you. It's your show. We are here for you. But before we get stuck into today's stories, let's get the news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Dawn, thank you. Good afternoon. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 2:03. Glastonbury Festival says it's appalled by the actions of Bob Villan on stage, as footage from their set is being assessed by the police. It's after the rap punk duo chanted "Death to the IDF" and encouraged the crowd to join in. Organisers say they crossed a line and that there's no place for anti-Semitism, hate speech or incitement to violence at the festival. The BBC says a warning was issued on screen during the performance. But senior government ministers are saying the broadcaster has serious questions to answer for not stopping the live stream. Israel's Deputy Foreign Minister Sharon Haskell spoke to GB News.
This is an absolute disgrace. I just don't understand how chants for death, for the destruction of Israel, racist comments like that have been just normalized in the UK. What do you think the BBC would have done had a performer been shouting anti-Muslim or far-right hate speeches? They would have pulled the plug immediately. So how come this only happened when it comes to Israel or to Jews?
The Prime Minister has defended his decision to U-turn on his welfare bill, saying he was distracted by world affairs. Sir Keir Starmer claims he was heavily focused on the G7 and NATO summits and the escalating tensions in the Middle East for much of the past 2 weeks. He only gave his full attention to the welfare bill on Thursday. That's the day before he announced the reforms. Concessions were made after a rebellion of more than 120 Labour backbenchers. Health Secretary Wes Streeting told GB News the changes should give people peace of mind.
OK, this week could have been smoother, not going to make any bones about that, but are we in a better place, having debated with each other, listened to each other and found a way through? Yes, we are in a better position, and there'll be lots of disabled people watching this morning, I suspect, on PIP, who've now got the peace of mind of knowing their situation is not going to change, they'll be protected.
Police in Northern Ireland have arrested a man on suspicion of murder after a pregnant woman was found dead in County Down. Sarah Montgomery was 27 years old and a mother of 2. Paramedics were called to a home in Enfield Walk, but she died at the scene. A 28-year-old man was arrested and remains in police custody. 2 more people have been arrested on suspicion of terror offences after planes at an RAF base were vandalised in a move claimed by Palestine Action. 2 men from London were taken into custody yesterday. They're accused of the commission, preparation or instigation of acts of terrorism after the attack at RAF Bryce Norton just over a week ago. On Friday, a woman and 2 men, also from London, were arrested, accused of the same offence. The Home Secretary has moved to prescribe Palestine Action as a terrorist organisation. And supermarkets will have to help shoppers make healthier food choices under new government plans to tackle obesity. The Healthy Food Standard, which will require retailers to promote fruit and vegetables instead of junk food, is part of a 10-year NHS plan. Supermarkets will be forced to report sales data and they could face fines for failing to meet targets. Measures also include tweaking recipes, changing shop layouts and offering discounts for healthy food. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Bethany. Right, now, before we went to that break earlier on, we were talking about the best and the worst places, the best and worst beaches in the UK. And we had a lovely couple on from Bognor, which has been voted the worst. And Jessica's got in touch saying, the Bognor beach hutters seem like a right laugh. Would 100% spend a day drinking champagne on Bognor Beach with them. It looked glorious, which was lovely. And for those asking which was the top beach in the country, it's Bamburgh up in Northumberland, which has voted one of the best. Because it's just looks lovely. I've never been. So let me know what your favourites are in the case. gbnews.com/your say. Now, let's move on, because this is a topic that lots of you are getting in touch about, and it is about Bob Vylan and Glastonbury. And lots of you are saying, what? I'm going to listen to you, actually, for once, because I do agree with you. Jocelyn has summed it up. Stop playing that clip. Please stop showing that clip. And I'm going to do that. Yeah, absolutely. And Tanky says the big names at Glastonbury today should step away. The whole festival has been ruined. So lots of you getting in touch about that one. And I'm actually not going to play it anymore, so I don't want to listen to it either. It was vile. We know what they said. It was wrong. So I'm not going to play it. You might see it, but you're not going to hear what they had to say. So, OK, let's move on. Now, well, we'll talk about it a bit more, actually. Glastonbury Festival. They say they're appalled by the actions of punk band Bob Vylan, adding chants of death to the IDF crossed a line. A police probe has now been launched into the distressing comments made by the duo, and the government has strongly condemned the actions, demanding urgent answers from the BBC. Earlier, Health Secretary Wes Streeting addressed the incident with Camilla Tominey. Here's what he had to say.
I do think the BBC have got questions to answer, as of the organisers of Glastonbury, about how this particular act came to be given such a prominent platform. And, of course, the comments that he made were completely disgraceful, but I also suspect were attention-seeking and publicity-seeking. And the fact that even now, and this is the perverse irony of what we saw at Glastonbury, the people, the Israelis who were taken from a music festival, killed, raped and still being held captive, those are the serious issues we should be talking about, which shouldn't be minimalised in the way that I think this act did.
Hamas continues to use its own people as human shields. I mean, why have we got people at Glastonbury not saying death to Hamas?
Well, absolutely. And Hamas is a death cult. We should be in no doubt about that. And I suspect that half of those drunken revellers, in fact, most of those drunken revellers, wouldn't want to live a single day in life under Hamas. As I say, they are a death cult.
That was my point, actually. I watched all those little pretty girls there in their little bikini tops, their little crop tops, their little hot pants with the flowers in their hair and the rainbows on their faces, thinking, how would you survive under someone like Hamas or Hezbollah, indeed? In any case, let's talk about this a bit more with political commentator Matthew Stadlen. Matthew, thanks for joining me. A rare treat to have you actually in the studio with me. OK, you've got a different take on this from what a lot of people are saying.
Have I?
Evidently you have, yes.
My take is relatively straightforward, I hope. And it is this. I am, as I think many viewers will be, a champion of free speech. However, I've always said that free speech has limitations, and those limitations are decided by the law of the land. So we await to see whether the police have decided that these comments on stage have crossed the criminal threshold, have crossed that line. What I'm absolutely clear about is that they crossed a line of decency. Whether or not they crossed a criminal line, they were appalling. I watched the clip yesterday afternoon. I mean, Glastonbury is not my scene, whether it's rainy
No, I can't.
or
Me neither,
hot.
to be honest with you.
But those comments made me feel sick. And they weren't just comments, really. Well, they were quite an articulate, hate-filled rant by a group I'd never heard of, Bob Villan, by the singer of that group. And to shout those words, death, death to the IDF, I'm appalled and horrified by what has been going on and what still is going on in Hama, in Gaza. I was appalled and horrified by the events of October the 7th. I'm appalled and horrified that there are still Israeli hostages taken.
Yes,
in other words,
50.
you can be appalled and horrified by the atrocities of October the 7th and beyond, and you can also be appalled and horrified by the way in which the Israeli state has reacted to that. But to chant death to Israeli soldiers, many of whom will be young people, I don't know off the top of my head whether they're conscripted. I think they probably are.
Many of them are, yes.
I know people with family of Israeli soldiers in Gaza. To wish them to be dead, to my mind, is outrageous. If you do not have an IDF, you do not have Israel. You could potentially have another Holocaust, because there would be no one to defend Jews, and by the way, not just Jews in Israel, from terrorists. So to call for death, and also, by the way, the comment about the particular record label executive using a C word, describing his physical appearance, a Jewish music executive. The comments made by this singer about him, I think some of the most egregious comments I have ever heard on British TV. I mean, it was live streamed online, wasn't it? So absolutely outrageous, this stuff. You can be appalled by what is going on in Gaza without remotely supporting what we saw in Glastonbury yesterday.
But do you think there is a free speech argument here, bearing in mind the BBC have banned groups like the Sex Pistols back in the day and Frankie Goes to Hollywood back in the day, yet played this out live? So do you think the free speech argument justifies what we saw yesterday?
That's a very good question. So first of all, there's the question of has it crossed a criminal threshold, and we wait to see whether the police decide.
How do you think
it
compares to the Lucy Connolly case, quickly? Because, I mean, she is serving 31 months.
I think my personal view, everyone has a different view. I thought her comments were absolutely appalling. I think the sentence was too harsh, but I'm glad that the riots were clamped down on, because we can't see those sorts of horrific scenes again. As I say, I think the comments made at Glastonbury yesterday were appalling. We wait to see whether they're deemed criminal or not. If they are,
do you think they should be?
If there is an arrest and the charge, then it will be up to a court
do you think they
to
should
decide. I think they come pretty close to being criminal. If they are criminal, then of course the BBC shouldn't have broadcast it. But I think the BBC shouldn't have broadcast it anyway, because even if they didn't get to the criminal point, something that you could say in private isn't necessarily something that you should be seeing on the national broadcaster. If the BBC was capable of giving the on-screen warning, which it did, about some of the language being used, it was capable of stopping that live stream. So the BBC has very serious questions to answer on this. It was a terrible mistake that it was allowed to go ahead. It should probably, or conceivably, have been foreseen. And if it wasn't capable of being foreseen, it should have been taken off the stream immediately. And I'm broadly a big supporter of the BBC. I worked there for a long time, but they've made a very bad mistake in this case.
And do you think that Glastonbury should now make some kind of attempt to clamp down on the way Glastonbury... I mean, it's literally been called the place irony goes to die now, because, I mean, we've heard we had Jeremy Corbyn there saying, oh, you know, we don't need walls, we need bridges, all the while surrounded by a protective perimeter fence that stop people getting in for nothing. And comments like this, and, you know, the irony of the people shouting back, singing those songs back to our Bob Villan. I mean, that was what I found more shocking, was the crowd singing along with it, or chanting back.
It's appalling. I've already said that Glastonbury is not my scene. I support people's right to go and enjoy themselves at Glastonbury, paying no doubt a lot of money to attend. And so long as the speech that is used isn't hate speech, then let them get on with it. We live in a free country. What I think is the really interesting thing is what the BBC should be broadcasting. And I think it's not just about a criminal threshold. The BBC should have a lower bar.
Do you think they should be punished in some way? I mean, lots of our viewers are saying, you know, defund the BBC, I'm not going to pay my licence anymore, how can they put this poison into my living room?
I think Lisa Nandy in the government has already been in touch with the Director-General to ask very serious questions. So I don't know what sort of form punishment means, but certainly not defunded, no. When you have an organisation as big as the BBC, which when I was there counted about 23,000 people who worked for it, of course there are going to be mistakes made. It's an organisation that is built out of human beings. So let's not use this as a rod with which to beat it with the idea of defunding it. But where it makes mistakes, it has to be held accountable.
OK. The other thing I wanted to talk about that they mentioned, that Bob Villan. And do you think Bob Dylan should sue, by the way? I mean, he is Jewish at the end of the day as well, and they're taking his good name in offence. So just quickly...
You have to ask Bob Dylan that.
Well, exactly. He's not here. I would like... But they also chant... They also sung at this crowd of very white, liberal people. I heard you want your country back and then tell them to be quiet. At the same time as protesting that Palestinians should... actually have their country back. I mean, they don't do irony at the very least.
It's perfectly possible to be pro-Palestinian in the sense of not wanting innocent Palestinians to be killed in the numbers in which they are being killed. I mean, I just don't think that as a human being can look at the stuff that has come out of Gaza in the last 2 years and not feel horror and empathy.
Yeah.
You can feel that without expressing it with such hate. And the singer, I'm afraid, was using hate to get a message across. It's enormously counterproductive. And those who joined in the crowd was appalling behaviour.
Well, do you think it'd help if he gave all the profits from the concert and their record sales to the people of Gaza?
Do you think that's going to happen?
No, I don't. Thank you very much. Matthew Studland, thank you very much indeed for joining us today. Now, a BBC spokesperson has said some of the comments made during Bob Villan's performance were deeply offensive. During this live stream on iPlayer, which reflected what was happening on stage, a warning was issued on screen about the very strong and discriminatory language. We have no plans to make the performance available on demand. Meanwhile, Glastonbury Festival themselves have said it is appalled by the statements made by Bobby Villan of punk duo Bob Villan during their set on Saturday. A post on Instagram said, "As a festival, we stand against all forms of war and terrorism. We will always believe in and actively campaign for hope, unity, peace and love." With almost 4,000 performances at Glastonbury 2025, there will inevitably be artists and speakers appearing on our stages whose views we do not share, and a performance presence here should never be seen as an endorsement of their opinions or beliefs. OK, what do you make of that one? OK, now it's our... do you want to cheer up? Time for the Great British Giveaway. Your chance to get your hands on £54,321. It's our biggest cash prize today, and all of that tax-free cash could be yours. Here's Hayley Sparks with all the details for you.
This is your chance to enjoy luxury this summer. It's our biggest cash prize to date, an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. What would you do with that? With all of that cash, you could just chill out, treat yourself and indulge in the finer things in life, somewhere like here, Downhall Hotel and Spa. You really could win the cash giveaway of the summer. Go on, treat yourself.
For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck indeed. What a lovely summer that could give you. Now, we'll move on, shall we? The Prime Minister is admitting he dropped the ball on the rebellion mounted by backbench MPs over his welfare cuts. Sir Keir Starmer says he was distracted by last week's events in the Middle East, and that's why he failed to stop the 120 MP strong rebellion to his benefits bill, which will be voted for this coming Tuesday. Joining me now is GB News political correspondent Catherine Forster. Catherine, thank you for joining us again. It's not a good day for Keir Starmer today. Again, another not good day for Keir Starmer. Front pages of all the newspapers having a go at him, saying Angela Rayner is waiting in the wings, West Streeting waiting in the wings. Will he survive?
It's a bit of a nightmare for the Prime Minister at the moment. We've had 3 U-turns in the last month, first on the winter fuel, then on the rape gangs, and now on this. And, of course, the anniversary, a year coming up next week. Who would have thought that things would have gone so wrong so quickly? Will he survive? Well, that's exactly what I asked him at a press conference in The Hague when we were at the NATO summit, how confident he was, A, leading Labour into the next election, and B, still being in office after the next election. He said he was very confident, but of course he would say that. But I think the fact these questions are being asked is a marker of a first year in which a lot has gone really rather wrong. And with the welfare, yes, of course, he was preoccupied with the international situation. He was at G7, he was at NATO, there was what was happening in the Middle East. Of course, the world is dangerous, it's taking up a lot of his time, but he is the Prime Minister. And I mean, he said himself, ultimately, he's got to carry the can. And these welfare, the fact that many Labour MPs were not going to take this has been clear for months. And it felt to me like he was in a sort of different world when we journalists were asking him in The Hague, what are you going to do? And he was sort of swatting us away, saying we press on, and referring to the rebels as noises off. Now they've had to have a massive climb down, £3 billion black hole for Rachel Reeves, and very difficult questions. They've upset people, disabled groups in the first place. Now they've upset other people by U-turning. And the fact is, though, that the welfare bill is out of control. At the moment, it's costing us $65 billion a year on health-related benefits. That's going to go up to $100 billion a year by the end of this Parliament. Everyone agrees the system is broken. They tried to do something to bring it down a little bit, still going up, but to bring it down a little bit. They've obviously not gone about it, though, in the right way, and they've upset a huge number of people, including a lot of their own MPs.
Well, I mean, you've travelled extensively with him, Catherine. I mean, you're used to sort of like, you know, being, you know, with Keir Starmer and seeing his moods and seeing how he operates. Would you say it's having an effect on him, a physical and mental toll on him?
He's a very down-to-earth, ordinary man when you talk to him. But nevertheless, and I've met him many, many times, I've been on a lot of trips with him, he just has a slight reserve. It's just a slight reserve that is always there, I think, because of his upbringing. So that, I think, has made it difficult for him to connect. And I think that's maybe partly why he's given a very big interview in The Observer this weekend to Tom Baldwin, who he trusts because he'd written his biography. It's very personal. He's admitted to a number of things that he now regrets. He regrets overdoing the doom and gloom when they made that speech in the Rose Garden, because he realises now that they sort of sucked out the hope. You need to give people something positive as well as just saying, oh, it's all very hard. He regrets the Island of Strangers comments. Now, some people were appalled by that comment. Some people would have thought this is great and this is what we should be hearing. He says that he was traumatised because his family's house had been firebombed and he hadn't read the speech properly. He and his speech writers hadn't made the connection. He's expressing a lot of regrets. I assume because he's hoping that people will forgive him and give him credit for being honest. But will they?
Yeah, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? Only 25% think Sir Keir Starmer will still be in Downing Street come the next election. Catherine Forster, thank you very much indeed for that update. Now, don't forget, please do stay with us all day, not just on your telly or on your radios, we're on your phones, we're on your laptops. You can take us in the garden with you. You can even get us, and this is Deb Posh now, on your smart speaker. To listen to us on your smart speaker, just say, play GB News on TuneIn. And it happens. Magic, isn't it? I'm Dawn Neeson, this is GB News, and there's loads more coming up on today's show. It's absolutely packed, including more than a quarter of police and crime commissioners have written to the policing minister in an open letter calling for cannabis to be upgraded to a Class A substance. But do you think cannabis is actually worse than heroin? All of that after the break. But after the break, actually, the Conservatives have struck an unprecedented deal with Reform UK in an attempt to force the government to reveal the true extent of migrant crime. Stay tuned to find out how that one's going to work. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. You've got time for a quick cuppa, but don't go too far. We'll see you soon.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Welcome back to Breakfast. Now, experts are warning that lithium suppliers will not keep up with the demand for electric cars.
Yeah, researchers say domestic lithium production could grow as much by about 10 times what it currently is by 2030, but will still fall short of demand.
So this morning we're asking whether Labour's green car policy is unachievable.
This policy tells you everything you need to know about net zero. This isn't about giving people free choices about the technologies they want to use. This is about saying we're going to have mandatory targets. It's a sad indictment on our country if we've just normalised the government making these fundamental decisions for people's lives. The CEBR has warned that this policy might cost the country. That's rigid targets for battery electric vehicles, known as the ZEV mandate. 80% of all vehicles will have to be electric vehicles by 2030, rising to 100% by 2035. And that policy is expected to cost £400 billion to the UK economy. And of course, car makers as well have warned that this policy is not achievable.
The latest stats say 47% of vehicles sold in Britain are now EVs. We're halfway there after just 2 years of the electric mandate. We've another 5 years to go. It's speeding up. And this charge that lithium, we're going to have a shortage of lithium, is nonsense. What it says is that there may be the consumption of lithium is increasing, so the domestic production will not be sufficient, but there's plenty in the world.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. This is The Weekend with Dawn Neeson. Thank you so much for your company this lovely sunny Sunday afternoon. Really appreciate it. And remember, if you are out in the garden or driving somewhere in the car, there's no escape. You can take us on the radio or we're on your laptop, so please do keep me company. I really appreciate it. Now, the story we're going to talk about now, Tories and Reform are making an unprecedented deal with Reform to battle migrant crime. All 5 Reform MPs are backing the Conservatives in an amendment to reveal the nationality and legal status of offenders convicted and sentenced by magistrates and judges. Joining us now is former Tory MP Tom Hunt. Tom, thank you very much for joining us. Right, explain a bit more about this story. What's going on? I didn't think you were ever going to get in bed together, Tories and Reform.
Well, to be honest with you, I'm not really sure that they have got in bed together. I think that this is a very sensible amendment that my understanding is what the general is behind, which is to release full information and to let sunlight win the day when it comes to different nationalities and their propensity to commit certain crimes. I think this is a very sensible amendment. And I think, on a case-by-case basis, you will see Reform MPs looking at these sorts of amendments. And if they think it's a common sense amendment, and this one is, they'll sign it. I don't think that necessarily means this is the start of much closer collaboration between the two parties. I must say I wouldn't mind that. I think that I'd like to see closer working on issues between the Conservative Party and Reform, but time will tell.
Why is it important that we do know the nationality of offenders?
Well, I think we need to. So I've long been clear that I think that certain cultures are more prone to certain crimes. I think I saw this in the town that I represented. We've also seen it in the grooming gang scandal, where we've seen abundant evidence that a disproportionate number of those taking part in the horrors that have been inflicted upon those poor girls and in various parts of the country have been, a significant proportion, disproportionate amount have been British Pakistani men. I think we have to have this data to hand, and I think it will help inform future decision making, and frankly also in immigration. If it is the case that those from a certain nationality are disproportionately more likely to commit certain crimes, then I don't think it is unreasonable for us to, when we're deciding who comes into the country in the future, to have that as something that influences our thinking. That isn't to say that everyone from that particular nationality is a problem. It's just to say that if it is the case that a particular nationality, maybe a particular culture within that nation, is more likely to commit certain crimes, I don't particularly want large numbers of those people coming into our country.
The argument, the counter-argument, obviously, which Labour obviously will put, is that this will encourage racism. If you sort of say, well, there are more Albanian criminals, it will encourage discrimination against, the Albanian community in this country. What would you say to that?
Well, I think it's that kind of dangerous thinking, frankly, that led to the grooming gangs or the rape gang scandal being swept under the carpet for so long. It was on these sorts of issues that led to that. So I don't think anybody's suggesting that we say everybody who is from a particular nationality is a problem, but we just want to see trends. And I think it is very reasonable to do that. And you mentioned Albanian. There's a lot of people who have come to this country from Albania who have made positive contributions. I would not want everybody from Albania to be branded as being problematic. But what I would say is that there is a lot of data out there that points to the fact that those from Albania are disproportionately linked to certain crimes. And I think that the alternative to this bill is that we sweep that under the carpet. And actually, that thinking led to people not confronting the grooming gang scandal. This is dangerous thinking. And actually, I think people are a bit sick of anyone who engages in the sort of thing that is behind this bill being branded as some sort of xenophobic and racist. Robert Jenrick spoke about this amendment in the last Parliament. I was supportive of it. I'm pleased to see it rear its head again. And naturally, I'm pleased to see as many MPs supporting that amendment as possible. And if the 5 Reform MPs want to do that, good for them.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. That is former Tory MP Tom Hunt there. Thank you very much. On the, well, basically naming and shaming which countries criminals come from. Good idea? GBNews.com/your say. Let me know your thoughts. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. Plenty more coming up on today's show. But first, it's time for news headlines again with Bethany.
Dawn, thank you. Good afternoon. Your latest headlines from the GB Newsroom. Glastonbury Festival says it's appalled by the actions of Bob Vylan on stage after the rap-punk duo chanted death to the IDF and encouraged the crowd to join in. The government says the BBC has serious questions to answer for not stopping the broadcast. The Prime Minister has defended his decision to U-turn on his welfare bill, saying he was heavily focused on world affairs. Sir Keir Starmer made a number of concessions to prevent a rebellion by Labour backbenchers. Police in Northern Ireland have arrested a man on suspicion of murder after a 27-year-old pregnant woman and mother of 2 was found dead in a home in County Down. 2 more people have been arrested on suspicion of terror offences after planes at an RAF base were vandalised in a move claimed by soon-to-be banned campaign group Palestine Action. And discounts on healthy foods, changing recipes and fines for supermarkets who fail to meet healthier sales targets. These are just some of the new measures the government will introduce to tackle obesity as part of a 10-year NHS plan. Those are the latest headlines for now. More at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much, Bethany. Now, let me know all your thoughts on the stories we're discussing today. Certainly, lots of you are getting in touch about the story we're doing about the best seaside towns in the country. Obviously, it's a glorious weekend, so lots of people are heading to the seaside. And the ones I used to go to as a kid were Jaywick and Clacton on the Essex coast. Not good. The worst one in the country is Bognor, and lots of you are saying how bad Bognor actually is these days. So please do keep those messages coming, and if you can defend Bognor in any way, shape or form, I'd love to hear from you. gbnews.com/your say. Join in our conversation. Let's have a chat, shall we? There's loads more coming up on today's show, including this one. This one will annoy you, actually. More than a quarter of police and crime commissioners have written to the policing minister calling for cannabis to be upgraded to a Class A substance. This is just a couple of weeks after the London Mayor Sadiq Khan argued that it should be decriminalised. What do you make of this one? All of that and much more to come. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. Don't go too far. We'll see you soon.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. High pressure dominating, meaning it's largely dry across the UK through Sunday. But there is a fair amount of cloud this morning, trapped underneath the area of high pressure, but the strong June sunshine should get to work, and we'll see plenty of that developing as we go through into the afternoon. It may be stubborn, though, across parts of the Midlands into Wales, southwest England like we saw on Saturday, Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland also seeing cloudier skies. Cloud could be thick enough for some drizzle at times over the hills. But elsewhere, generally sunny and temperatures really rising in that sunshine, highs around 31 Celsius towards the southeast, elsewhere towards the low, perhaps locally mid-20s. So a warm day to come and a very warm evening, particularly across southern and southeast England. Temperatures still towards the high 20s, 30 Celsius there in London at 5 p.m. Cloudier skies further north and west this evening, so here temperatures more like the low 20s. But sunshine still holding on across eastern Scotland, reaching around 21 Celsius there at 6 p.m. Cloudier skies in the west, allowing for some drizzle and fairly breezy conditions around the coasts as well. Overnight, we'll see some patchy rain across parts of Orkney and Shetland. Elsewhere should be largely dry with some clear spells where the cloud is thick enough again over some western hills. Could see a little bit of drizzle, but the humidity is rising through the night, so it will be fairly uncomfortable for sleeping. Temperatures dropping no lower than 15 to 18 Celsius. Some places may even stay above 20 degrees. So I'm hopeful there'll be more sunshine across England and Wales to start on Monday morning. However, across Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, the cloud thickens. We have outbreaks of heavy rain moving in here through the day. Could be some localised flooding, so it is worth staying up to the details here. But in the sunshine, temperatures really rocketing up to 34 Celsius towards the southeast come the afternoon.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
Hello, welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Now, lots of you have been getting in touch. Matthew, why did GB News ask us to comment and then ignore all the comments? Well, I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm really trying to read as many out as I possibly can. But the show just moves on so fast. But do keep them coming, gbnews.com/say. And I promise, in the little bit of time we've got left together, I will read as many out as I possibly can. Now, is it time to get tougher on cannabis? Over a dozen police commissioners think so, and they've written to the government demanding it be made a Class A drug, up there with heroin. They say cannabis is indeed more damaging than heroin, warning of psychosis, birth defects and rising NHS costs. But the backlash has begun. I'm joined now by former Met Police Detective Mike Neville. Mike, thank you very much for coming in to see me on this glorious sunny Sunday outside. Now, this is an open letter written to the Police Minister. Cannabis be upgraded to a Class A substance, up there with heroin. They warn that we cannot allow that, you know, the use of cannabis now to become the Britain of the future, because let's be honest with you, cannabis is more or less decriminalised. Everyone smokes it. Wherever you go, you can smell cannabis. So what do you make of this? Should it be a Class A?
Well, my view on drugs is this, is you either legalise a lot of them or you crush it. You know, you don't have halfway houses like Sadiq Khan has proposed, or possessions legal, supplying's not. Because what happens there is, as a former police officer, you cut off the information about who's dealing drugs if you can't prosecute the users. But crushing drugs and getting rid of this war on drugs would mean that you have to have mega resources. Now, the police, you know, what difference would it make if it's made Class A, in the sense that people are already being cautioned for possession of Class A drugs? The maximum sentence for Class B is 5 years in prison. For Class A, it's 7. But the reality is that a fraction of people, a tiny handful of people, will be sent to prison for simply possessing drugs, whether they're Class A or Class B. And the police, for example, are solving 1% of thefts, 5 or 6% of burglaries and rapes. So even whatever they call it, let's say it's Class AA plus, who is going to enforce this, and what difference will it make at all on the streets?
This is the devil is always in the detail in these stories, isn't it? I mean, how are these things going to be achieved? But in this one in particular, obviously, you're crushing drugs completely. I mean, drugs are so wrapped up in so much other crime going on, aren't they?
Well, that's absolutely the point. So what people do, the difference between drugs and alcohol is generally alcohol's legal, so you drink it, and then people do bad things because they're drunk and stupid. With drugs, the crime often comes before, in the sense of possession, because it's illegal, so it's expensive, so people have got to steal things to buy it and to fund it. And often the selling of cannabis and stuff funds other criminal empires. So it is absolutely wrapped up in the criminal world. And we just simply, by trying to beat it in a half-hearted way, we achieve nothing. We either go to be like Singapore or somewhere like that where it's absolutely crushed, or, as I say, you look at how do you legalise it and sell it like alcohol.
And commissioners involved in this letter also point to other countries where laws are laxer, warning that in the US have seen unofficial pharmacies selling cannabis, and that goes with the opiate fentanyl as well. And we've seen those awful scenes from American cities where people are just shambling around like zombies.
Well, I mean, I live in the Midlands, in Stoke-on-Trent. The use of drugs there, you know, people are absolutely out of their heads. They're jumping off buildings and things like that. But the facts are that people do that when they're drunk as well. But the reality is, it's all right bringing in all these new laws, but who is going to enforce it? And there isn't any prison places left. So what are you going to do with these people? So caution them for Class A rather than caution them for Class B. It will not help anybody.
Do you think we should actually, all things being equal, we had more resources for policing, we had the number of prison places we need in this country? I know I'm talking pie in the sky here, but do you think we should actually criminalise all drugs?
I personally think it should be sold in a shop. I think it'd make it a lot less attractive and fashionable. It would make it quite boring for some people. There's always going to be drug addicts in this world. We can deal with them as they do. But at the moment...
Well, even drugs like heroin and fentanyl and things like that. It should be sold on a high street shop.
My view, it should be sold in a certain way to a certain group of people, because you're never going to stop them. They're already mugging old ladies to obtain the money to buy those drugs. So let them have it. Let them have what they want. I don't care about those people. I care about the old ladies who are mugged. Or the alternatives, as I say, if we had enough police officers, you could crack it and crush it, just like they do in, like I say, in the Middle East or places like Singapore. But we're never having that. People complain that the house is burgled, the police do nothing. Well, let's have the police, if they could focus on burglaries, robberies, rapes, it would free them up to do that.
Yeah, we've mentioned alcohol a couple of times in this conversation as well. The argument about drugs has always gets flung at you. It's like, well, if alcohol were invented now, it would be illegal as well. What do you think to that?
Well, it's absolutely... They tried that in America with Prohibition, didn't they? And what did it do? You only have to watch the film The Godfather to see how they fund their lifestyle. Criminals will use these things. They've ruthlessly used drugs to make more money now. Why would you rob a bank? Because it's hard work. You have to go in there with a gun. The police might come and shoot you. You can deal drugs. You can get yourself into such a high position that you're way off the... You know, you're way out of actually handing the stuff over. So they're never prosecuted. And it's an international market. So I think we've really got to have an honest debate about it.
OK, great. Thank you very much, Mike. That is former detective Mike Neville there on whether cannabis should be a Class A drug like heroin. What do you think? GBNews.com/your say. Now, if you want to escape all of this and some holiday sun, not in this country, abroad, here's a forecast for some of those top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
It's going to continue to be very hot across southern parts of the Mediterranean over the next couple of days, but not everywhere is going to see that hot weather. Parts of Madeira, the Canary Islands, seeing a little bit of clouds and blustery winds over the next couple of days. But it's southern parts of Spain, southern parts of France, parts of Italy, Greece that will continue to see those temperatures rising into the mid, perhaps high 30s, maybe even locally the low 40s too. There will still be plenty of sunshine on offer for many though, and those temperatures will be on the rise as we go over the next couple of days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
Hello, welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Oh my God, we're coming to our last 5 minutes, 10 minutes together, but we've saved the best till last. England's young Lions have done it again, been crowned under-21 European champions after a 3-2 win over Germany. Lee Carsley's side bounced back from an earlier group stage loss, scoring in an extra time to snatch the trophy. So I'm joined now to talk all lovely things. We're not talking about Glastonbury anymore. Aidan McGee, let's talk some football.
Exactly. Good to see you, Dawn. Now, look, that was an outstanding result last night, not least because it was against the old enemy Germany, but it shows that the FA's pathway is showing signs of working because these players have almost exclusively come out of academies. And the evidence is, if you look around Europe and even the rest of the world, when these countries win underage tournaments or group age tournaments, then they tend to go on to win the big honours. So it doesn't mean necessarily that we're going to win the World Cup next summer, but it gives Thomas Tuchel, who was in the stadium in Bratislava last night, some options. You'll look at those players and think, well, look, they're tournament ready. Some of them have got 2 victories under their belt now. Maybe they're ready to go into the World Cup squad. And look, England were 2-0 up, and what I liked about it was that they were pegged back. And it happens. Yes. They're playing against an elite opponent, but they went into extra time. They made a few changes. Ethan Nwaneri, for example, at Arsenal, he's been a breakthrough season for him at Arsenal, and he's been, you know, I think you'd look at him and think, well, maybe he should be in the starting 11, but no sulking, just get on there, and he made a decisive contribution to the winning goal. And I just think that's not something we associate with England teams down the years. And don't forget, when they won it 2 years ago, it was 39 years since they'd done it before that.
Don't remind me.
So I think it's an important staging post. And fair props to Lee Carsley. Remember last September, we kind of vilified him, didn't we? We said, well, he doesn't want to sing the national anthem.
Doesn't want to sing the national anthem.
Well, he's a Republic of Ireland international, so he shouldn't be that surprised by that. But he looked like a rabbit in the headlights. And he was somebody who was kind of pushed into that position by the FA's pathway. Look, we can get someone from this who manages the under-21s to become the full manager, the first team manager. That means that we're doing the right thing. Our processes are working. But he didn't really want to be there. He wanted to develop players, and now he's gone back to that role. This was his thing.
Looks
the
much
tournament.
Happier.
He does, exactly.
Yeah.
And he's a good guy, and I think we can hear from him now.
I think we have to give this squad so much credit. I'm so proud of the players, the way they've conducted themselves for the 29 days that we've been together. So focused, so together. You always worry at the start on the dynamics of the group, but the longer we've been in the tournament, the more together they've became. And I'm sure they'll now have brilliant memories of this tournament in a few months' time. The main thing is now is that they keep working hard at their clubs, keep playing for their clubs, and push for a senior position.
And Dawn, I would like to add about James McAtee as well. Good decision. He'll feel vindicated because he could have gone to Manchester City, with Manchester City to the Club World Cup. He decided to put his eggs in the England basket, and it's paid off.
Brilliant. And just quickly, very quickly, tennis starts tomorrow.
It does indeed. Djokovic thinking he can match Roger Federer's 8 Wimbledon titles. That was set in about 2017, I think. He's also going for an outright 25 Grand Slams, which would put him ahead of the 82-year-old Margaret Court. She wasn't 82 when she won it. She's now a Christian minister.
She wasn't.
No, but she's taken. She holds the record, so that shows brilliant level of performance from her. That could be eclipsed this time. And then we've got Emma Raducanu on tomorrow, 10-4, searing heat. Let's see how she gets on.
OK, brilliant. Thank you, Aidan McGee. Always a pleasure, as always. Now, thank you for watching. That's all from me tonight. Really appreciate your company. But don't go too far, because the wonderful Nana Queer is up next. And she's always got a smashing show. Not going to be any different today. What's coming up, Nana?
Well, Dawn, of course we've got to talk about the BBC. Could you imagine if those chants were played out on GB News? That'd probably be the end of us. Also, is Nigel Farage a good role model for young men? And would Angela Rayner make a good Prime Minister? All of that on the way after this.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Welcome to our latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So the temperatures are going to continue to rise over the next couple of days, but it isn't going to be that warm for all of us. There is still some rain around. All thanks to this weather front that's sitting across the central swathe of the UK, going to continue to bring some outbreaks of light rain and drizzle over the next couple of days. But we do have high pressure down to the south, Well, we see that weather front across northern parts of England. There is going to be some patchy rain and drizzle to end the day on Saturday, perhaps sinking southwards a little into parts of Wales, maybe even southwest England too, seeing some low cloud, mist and murk into the early hours of Sunday. But elsewhere, a dry night to come, plenty of clear spells on offer. But despite those clear spells, it is going to be staying really quite mild. Across the south, temperatures only dropping into the high teens, a little fresher further north, but likely still staying in the double figures here. So that does mean a very mild start to the day on Sunday. Across parts of Wales, southwest England, we could see a little bit of low cloud over any high ground, some patchy rain and drizzle in places. But elsewhere across England, generally a dry, bright start to the day. A similar start across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland too. Plenty of early morning sunshine on offer. Maybe one or two isolated showers just across the Northern Isles of Scotland. But for most of us, a dry and bright and pleasant start to the day on a Sunday morning, albeit quite a mild start too. That rain and drizzle across parts of Wales, perhaps southwest England.